I have a presentation. In the corporate world, we're used to having presentations. But I will not use the PPT. I will just speak from my heart, if that is okay with you. I have some slides. But I want to share in the next 15 minutes the vision which we started about the India Inclusion Summit. Take you through the journey. It's been a year of preparation. What is it in store for us? How do we see it going forward? Is Prasad here by any chance? Is TGC Prasad already here? I take the liberty of using TGC Prasad's opening words in the book, which we will launch later in the afternoon. To the world, you are another parent, but for your special child, you are the world. This event is dedicated to all special children, parents of special children, extended family members of special children, everybody who's come across a special child. Ladies and gentlemen, the first India Inclusion Summit in this country is dedicated to all of you who have come across a special child and want to do your small bit. If you are able to see the presentation, this is probably one of the most moving quotes that I read from a very famous book on Temple Grandin and a very famous movie by the same name, which says that the world needs all kinds of minds. And what I want to speak about is the 3 words that is part of India Inclusion Summit. I'll speak a little bit about India, I'll speak a little bit about inclusion, and I'll speak a little bit about the purpose of the summit and what is the way forward. I was looking through the CII report, which says that 10% of the world's population is differently abled. In my mind, 100% of the world is differently abled. And I see this at my home. My wife is a fantastic singer, and I have no clue about neither music, no songs. I think I'm differently abled. I think we all are differently abled. Some are good in mathematics, some are good in science, some are good in sports. And so if you turn that around, you're actually, most of us are not good in something or the other. So if you look at the world, we all are differently abled in some way. But going by the definition of who is differently abled, we say that 10% of the world's population is differently abled. And let me bring that to the India context. 70 million people in this country fall under the category of being differently abled. Just to give you a context of what 70 million means, 70 million is more than the population of France, 70 million is more than the population of all the 4 metros, plus Bangalore and Hyderabad put together. That is the number of differently abled people we have in this country. Interestingly, 70% of the disabled people worldwide is in the developing nations, which is countries like India and many others. However, one of the most amazing statistics that we see is that almost 70 to 80% of the differently abled population in the world are in the age group that should be working. In a country like India, less than 1 lakh of the differently abled people actually are working in an organized sector. Less than 1 lakh out of the 70 million, and if you do 80% of that who are supposed to be working, less than 1 lakh of that is actually in the organized sector. Right? Very interestingly, I was going through the disability bill and seeing at what is it that we can do from a government point of view. As much as we believe there's a lot to be done, it's interesting to note that out of 196 countries in the world, only 45 countries have something called a disability bill. So in some ways we are progressive, we at least have a bill, though obviously there's a lot more that needs to be done. However, this is a problem which can never be solved in isolation. And my understanding of disability was from talking to many people, and we found that as much as people are doing a lot of outstanding work, they are all happening in isolation. The NGOs are doing some outstanding work in this field, the schools are doing a lot of good work, the corporates are doing a lot of good work, the government is doing a lot of good work, but they are all happening in isolation, in silos. In the corporate world, I have learned that the biggest task of a leader is to break these silos and mobilize people for a bigger cause. In some ways, that's what I'm trying to do with the India Inclusion Summit. Get every stakeholder together, whether it's schools, whether it's NGOs, whether it's government, whether it's corporates, because when all of you come together, then we are greater than the sum of each one of us individually. And then we can create a movement. Another interesting observation is that countries can grow their economy and eradicate poverty. This is possible, yeah? Because we all speak about GDPs, 5%, 7%, 10%. So in some ways, countries can grow their economy and eradicate poverty, but unfortunately, they can never eradicate disability. So you cannot say that because I'm going at 9% or 10%, disability in some ways will just vanish. It doesn't happen that way. So we all have to face it. That's the reality. Let me speak a little bit. This is the India context that I want to set. Let me speak a little bit about inclusion and how this summit came into existence. I met Dr. Arun Shourie, whom I think is one of the most iconic figures, one of the most respected individuals, most amazing human beings I have met, almost a year back. And we said, we were having a discussion, I was telling sir, how do we take this cause forward? And originally my idea was to have 2 or 3 speakers and maybe 50 people in a small meeting room discuss on how we can make a difference. And he said, Ferose, if you want to do something, do it big, right? You are fortunate to be in a position where you can start a movement. So think big. And in some ways, I feel extremely sorry and disappointed that Arun sir couldn't be here with us today, because this was as much as his vision as all of us. He was the guiding force behind this. His son, Adit, is very, very serious. I hope all of us in this room can say a short prayer for his well-being. He's in the ICU. He had said, Ferose, I have cancelled all my speaking engagements for the year except the India Inclusion Summit. He wanted to be here that badly, but all we can do is pray for his son's well-being. But I must say, this wouldn't have been possible without his constant guidance. He really made us dream. And let's hope that in the spirit of the event, we make this an event a success. I think that would give him the maximum happiness. In fact, I told him, sir, why don't you video record your statement and send it to us? He said, Ferose, nothing can replace the fact that I couldn't be there. So he will, I'm sure, in spirit with us for the rest of the day. One of the interesting things I observed, and I think a lot of us, when I met people, said that a lot of us have a sense of apathy to the cause, which is not the case. In fact, every person whom I've met actually wants to do something for the cause. It's the exact opposite. Almost everyone whom I've reached out to have poured their hearts, have opened their doors, wanted to do something for a larger purpose. So I don't think there is any sense of apathy. Actually, there is a sense where everybody believes they have to come together and do something. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't know what to do and how they can contribute. I remember while growing up, we were all told stories about how the job of good is to fight the evil. I've grown up thinking the job of good is to do good. I think that's all we should restrict ourselves. I think everybody in this room wants to do something good. Don't worry about the evil. That will be taken care by itself. The job of good is to do good. And if all of us come together, we can make a big, big difference. When we were planning this event, we said, who are the people whom we should get? Arun sir had just one simple way forward. He said, Ferose, invite the speakers who are passionate about the topic. This is not about getting celebrities here. This is about getting people who are passionate about the topic. And it is amazing the support that I received. Harsha Bogle, who has to go to Calcutta. He flew down. He will fly out today afternoon. George Abraham came all the way from Delhi. Ramesh Wangal came all the way from Singapore. Kiran Bedi was supposed to do a keynote in London. She cancelled it. She will be here in the second half. Almost all the speakers accepted to be here from one phone call. Siddharth, who is here with us, is one of the most inspiring people I have seen. His wife is expecting. Last week, is on the 8th week if I'm right, Siddharth. Sorry if I made this public. But he said, I would not miss the India Inclusion Summit. Kirti sir, he has come all the way from UK to be with us. So almost all of the people have accepted to be here, not because of anything else, but because of the sheer power of the purpose that we have ahead of us. So thank you once again. So we should all give a big round of applause for all these wonderful speakers. I want to spend 2 more minutes about what is the vision, what do we want to do out of this. And the other advice that Arun sir gave me was, Ferose, this shouldn't be an event where people come together, have a good evening and go back. This should be an event which is a call for action, where there is something tangible coming out of it, where there are certain takeaways for every participant, because you all have given 1 day of your precious time for all of us, so there has to be a tangible outcome. Our vision, and it may sound big, bold, audacious, but our vision is that the India Inclusion Summit in 3 years' time will become the largest inclusion event in the world. I also want to share a little bit about the spirit in which we want to do the event, and I hope you all can pay attention to the spirit. I will go back to the slides a little later, but I want to just jump into the spirit of the event. Can I move to the last slide? And then I will talk about the 5 key takeaways from the event. I was at Stanford, and at the end of the session there was a very interesting quote which said, hope is a good thing, but it is not a course of action. And I think what we need is some people to stand up and act. It is a good thing, but it is not a course of action. What are the key takeaways, or what are the most important parts which we don't want to dilute as an event? And I want to share 5 of them with you. The first is that we said, it's very interesting, when the event was announced by Times of India, many people came and said, what is the registration fees? Right? How many of you paid a registration fees in this room? I hope nobody. Even if it becomes the largest inclusion summit in the world, we will not take a single rupee. We said the spirit has to be inclusive, right? So we wanted to make the entire environment as inclusive as possible. And we have tried to keep certain things in mind. If you see, we made the stage accessible. Right? There are employees, there are people in this room who can't hear. We have a translator for them. We want to keep the entire spirit of the event as inclusive as possible. I mean, it would be an irony if you talk about inclusiveness and don't walk the talk. As I said, it will be free for all participants, but very important is only for the people who will contribute to the cause. 4,000 of my employees at SAP Labs said they wanted to be here. 4,000 of them. We only allowed 20 of them to be here because these 20 have volunteered their time and energy towards making a difference to the differently abled. And only those 20 are allowed here. I hope you have realized that there are no company logos here. We will recognize the fact that people have helped us. There is no doubt that we wouldn't be hosting such a wonderful event if Taj has not been with us. This event wouldn't have been possible without the Autism Society, without the Spastic Society of Karnataka, without the Karnataka Parents Association for Mentally Retarded Citizens, without Vidya Infotech. But we will not put the logos of any company, because this is not a property of either an individual or a corporate. This is a property of every human being who has a heart. Who has a heart and who wants to drive a larger change. So we will not put the logo of any company. You want to make a difference, join hands, and let's make a tangible difference. We spent a lot of time thinking about the logo. You have a book, and I hope you've seen the logo and how it looks. If you look at the logo, it has a tree with birds of different colors, because that is the spirit of inclusion. We believe that birds of different feathers can flock together. Birds of different feathers can actually flock together, which is against what the famous saying is, typically birds of similar feathers flock together. We believe it is actually possible that birds of different feathers, and this room is an example of that. An example where you have differently able children, where we have parents, where we have students from schools, where we have corporate people. So it's actually possible that birds of different feathers can flock together. Now, what are the 4 or 5 things we want to focus on, and how do we take this forward? The first and the most important thing we need to do is to spread awareness. This is by far the basic foundation of this event. How do we spread awareness? And the best way to spread awareness is to piggyback on popular mediums. What are the popular mediums? It is movies, it is books, it is sports, it is cricket. Use those mediums to spread awareness, because people are tagged on to these mediums. And hence you would find today, in the entire day, we have a musical performance, we have sports personalities, we have a book launch, because these are mediums which can help spread awareness. If TGC Prasad's book spreads 1 million copies, then probably 1 million people are aware of what autism is. So the first purpose is to use popular mediums to spread awareness. As I said, we have to find a holistic solution. Corporates have to come together. And it's amazing that once you make a tangible difference, once you have a case study of success, almost everybody wants to replicate it. Forbes carried an article on how SAP labs have hired autistics. It's probably one of the most moving articles you would find. I met the Forbes editor last week, and he said, this article has generated more goodwill for Forbes than anything else. This is the power of positive media. This is not negative media. This is positive media. Immediately after the Forbes article came out, 5 corporates, Philips, Intel, Wipro, all of them, 5 of them called us and said, Ferose, how can you help us replicate this? That is the power of positive media. If you need to replicate something which is a good cause, you need the help of the media. I'm very happy the Times of India agreed to help us and be a partner in spreading the message. And I must confess, I had a fantastic meeting with Vinay Kamath, and after the first meeting he said, Ferose, we will cover this because the city of Bangalore needs to know what is happening here. So that's the power of goodwill. The entire event is done at 0 cost, literally. Right? Because to put up a show like this, you need some money, but you also need people to come together. When we said we need to make a tangible difference, we said, let's launch a music school for special children, where we use scientific method and show the power of music therapy on differently able children. To launch a music school, we need money. And I am very proud to say that the 20 employees from SAP who are here, within a span of 25 days, raised 14 lakh rupees from their personal pocket. This is not an SAP contribution. This is the power of every employee in SAP Labs who did crazy stuff. They even auctioned me, by the way. So they said, if you want to have dinner with Ferose, let's auction. And I was very happy. I mean, I was a little embarrassed. Imagine if somebody just pays 20 rupees to have dinner with me. That would be very embarrassing. But I was very happy to see that in that auction, people contributed 24,000 rupees to have dinner with me. I mean, I just want to tell this to my wife and get some money out of her. And I said, right? See, this is what people pay to have dinner, and you are not even valuing that. But that's a different story. That's a different story. Now, that's how people came together and raised funds. We had VVS Lakshman with us last week. He signed a lot of bats. We auctioned his bats. People contributed between 7 to 10,000 rupees for a bat. And he said, this is my contribution for a cause. 14 lakh rupees, 25 months. We will launch the school on 14th of January. And I'm very, very pleased that we have Bombay Jayashree here with us. For all of you, I must say, please stay till the end, because otherwise you are going to miss an outstanding performance later in the evening. She's helping us run the music school. Ganesh is here, who's put his life behind this. We will talk more about it later in the evening. We also have to remember that we have to work together. You know, there is sometimes a sense of apathy and says the government wouldn't do anything. I don't think that is the case. We have to be collaborative. There is a lot of work that needs to be done on the disability bill. We will have some discussions around that later in the day. I think we have to work with the government. We have to give our inputs. I'm very happy that the Autism Society, Spastic Society, all of them have come together and built the disability bill. However, we need to now move it in the parliament. And that is where people like Dr. Arun Shourie and others are actually helping us to ensure that there is action. Right? We also believe that technology has a big role to play. We are short of 17 lakh teachers in this country. And I'm talking about regular people, for normal people. For special children, that is that much more amplified, because we need, in many cases, 1:1 teachers. If for normal people we have such a gap, imagine what is it for special children. And hence the only solution going forward is to use the power of technology. Because technology helps us scale. And we've started a few things by working on Project Prayas. Kavita madam is here. And we believe that if we have to solve the problem, we have to use technology in some form. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'm saying let's use the power of technology wherever we can. We also want parents of special children and educators to come together and share their best practices. I think one of the first things you have to remember is that you have to start giving. I remember during some of the board meetings that I've had, people said, this is what we have built. I don't want to share it with anybody. If you don't share, it is useless. Let me tell you, I'm very proud that my parents are here with me. One of the things they always taught me is that if wealth and knowledge is useless if you don't share it. Wealth and knowledge is useless if you don't share it. And this platform is for sharing. Don't keep it to yourself. Okay? So I hope we have a great day ahead of us. As I said, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers. I hope you all take back something positive out of this. And this is just a movement that has started. As I said, 3 years from now, this will become the largest inclusion summit in the world. And that's my personal commitment. Thank you.